So I'd like to welcome our panelists to the stage. We've got Kurt Wuckert Jr. Again, we welcome him back, founder at Gorillapool. We've also got Peter Den Dooven, who is CIO at mintBlue. And then we've also got Thomas Giacomo, who is Director of Utilization at the Bitcoin Association. So let's give a warm welcome to our panelists. Hello, hello. It's lovely to have you guys up here. We've got Kurt on the end there, Peter in the middle, and Thomas is closest to me. So yes, we're going to be talking all about simplifying writing and reading transactions on chain, both applications and miners. I've got some general questions for everyone, and then I've got some specific questions for each of our guests. I'll get into a bit about what mintBlue does, for example, and lots more. So I thought we'd kick off with a look from the application perspective about the key technical topics that a builder has to deal with on either side of the equation, both writing and reading. So Thomas, perhaps we could start with you. What do you think are the kind of key technical topics that people need to be looking at?
Yes, so application builders have first to know how to build transactions. Actually, they can also go to TAL services, yes, because TAL created a services called TAL Client, allowing applications to not have to own any BSV to build a transaction and to send them to the network. So actually, you just have to log into TAL console, and at the end of the month, we just bill you in fiat currency. So you don't have to take care about all the complexity of building and funding transactions. Also, you also have to, of course, understand how the BSV blockchain works.
Yep.
For that, the best way will be for you to go to the bitcoinsv.com website, and then you have all the material that you need to first learn. You can also go to BSV Academy for that, learn how the blockchain works, and then you're going to have to use also post-deployment services like blockchain explorers for the BSV blockchain. What's on chain is for now the leading BSV blockchain explorer, but I can discuss about how what's on chain works later.
Do you guys want to add on to that at all? Either of you?
Yeah, I'd say a bit of the same. If you're not using a service provider such as TAL or mintBlue, and there's others as well, you have to deal with a lot of complexities, like dealing with cryptographic keys, finding your UTXOs. There's many of these technical things that you don't want to do as a builder, and you probably want to use a service provider for that.
Yeah, so you think that's kind of the way that you tackle these problems is by using a service provider?
As a builder, yes.
Kurt?
Yeah, I think no basic app builder should have to be a sysadmin in the infrastructure of the network upon which their business is built. Like imagine trying to start a retail business and saying, okay, well, I need to design the plumbing system, and I need to get unless you're a massive company that's building a gigantic headquarters, that's not how startups work. That's not how most growth stage businesses work. You need to have a reliable piece of infrastructure that you specialize and you build your application in, and that requires infrastructure providers on the network to provide essentially everything else. But that's a very unique idea in the blockchain space. The 99% of all blockchain users think first, how do I sync my node? How do I do it? They start by trying to be part of the infrastructure of the system. And this is why after 15 years, we see most businesses don't ever actually become businesses. They are ideas, and they're working on their roadmap.
Yeah. So Kurt, for you, what kind of tools do you think have really evolved well in this space?
I mean, indexing is a huge one. Serving out index data. Ultimately, Bitcoin and any blockchain really it's a database. And there's a lot of people that know how databases work. But ultimately, how do you get that data from a distributed database? Now, people think of it like a cloud system, and people are familiar with cloud systems, but for some reason they look at blockchain and they just get cross-eyed. They don't seem to understand how to use a blockchain the exact same way you would use every other thing. And a lot of it is by design. It's a cultural problem where blockchain people say, well, you need to run your own data set and all of these things. which is why we see these systems not scale. Now, at my company, for example, Gorillapool, I believe it is our duty, it is not our job, it is our duty to index data and make it extremely available to our clients so that they can rely on it and build a very valuable business using the data that we provide and we guarantee. It is a very unique value prospect in the blockchain space.
Yeah, do you guys echo what Kurt's saying there? Do you think, Karen?
Yeah, I agree, and I think one of the unique selling points of using a blockchain is that you can use a service provider for your data, and if you don't like him, you can move to another service provider because you share that same data set.
Mm.
Yeah, and also about how the different products evolved. At the Bitcoin session, we also took care about the Onramp product. So actually, we just released a new Onramp transaction. So it means that if you want to send data to the chain and to broadcast it to the network, you just have to go to miners like Gorillapool or Tal, and then through just API endpoints, you're able to broadcast transactions to the network. Of course, we are taking care about developing the best infrastructure, mainly regarding the node software. So we are working on a new iteration of the node software. So BSV is already one of the fastest blockchain in the world, but we are currently working on a new release to improve the number of transactions per second, because that's actually, at the end, the speed, the cost, and the security are one of the main components if you want to build an application on the blockchain. So that's what we are taking care of. And also for reading services, we are currently releasing a new iteration of what we call the Live Client Toolbox, which will be a new, there are a lot of infrastructure components allowing you to send and to read data from the chain. So that's the different also product that we are taking care of at the Bitcoin session.
And Peter, what about you? What do you think are some of the missing pieces, both for writing and reading on the blockchain at the moment?
I think service providers such as mintBlue and all the others take care of a lot of that. But for us and for, I think, like the more technical builders in this space, what's still a bit of a bottleneck is like the node software. There's this Bitcoin D, which we inherited basically from before. And it has, it has some limits on what we can do. And I know there's work being done on that, but that would be a major step to get rid of that, basically.
Mm. And Kurt, any kind of key missing parts for you at the moment?
I mean, there's a million little things you could point at, but I would say the big one is competitors. We just need more brains to show up and say, hey, I think I can make more money than you because you're doing something silly. And that's the real solution to everything, is to create an incentive for people to show up and try to do better than the people that are currently doing it.
So you just don't think there's enough people getting involved in this industry yet?
The blockchain, people treat the blockchain industry like it is highly developed and it's super disruptive, and it just frankly isn't at this point. Like, there has not been a gigantic disruption because of blockchain technology. There's been a lot of money made, and there have been a few key examples where, hey, this is an interesting proof of concept, or they solved a very local problem. But truly, we need the global economy solving these problems, the way that we have web developers or people that are doing cybersecurity or these things. Like, there are hundreds of thousands of engineers and entrepreneurs working on those parts of the internet stack and all these other things. And in blockchain, we're literally talking about maybe thousands globally across all blockchains that are really working on engineering real solutions, and it's just not enough people.
So what is it? Is it that it's on the way, or is there something blocking people from getting involved and getting involved in other industries instead?
I think part of it is corruption. It's the same reason why you see great cities fall apart, and it's because there's so much opportunity to just grift money out of the system. And we see that a lot in the blockchain space, where somebody may come in and have a great business idea, and so they issue a token and whatever, but then all of a sudden, you have, in many cases, somebody in their early 20s, maybe they're in college, this is their side project, but it generates $5 or $10 million worth of revenue very quickly, and then it just doesn't make any sense to use that money, hire more. It's like, I just retired and I'm 22.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a weird incentive versus opportunity cost situation where, they don't have any business experience, but they got rich by accident. And we see that so consistently that nobody ever then turns around to say, okay, I'm going to reinvest this into making my business truly valuable. They quit, they go party, whatever.
Do you guys agree? Do you think that there's a problem getting more people involved? Perhaps is there a regulation issue here involved? Perhaps? What are your thoughts?
I think I definitely agree, but I also think it's a problem of, there's this misconceptions of what a blockchain can do and whether it can scale. Okay. And like a lot of businesses we talk to, they think, it's going to be expensive, It's not going to scale, and so they give up before they start. And so there's a lot of education to do, and there's a lot of business development to do.
Yeah, and I think one of the main components will be the education part, to make sure that technical but also non-technical people understand and translate how the blockchain can benefit to a specific company, because at the end it has to be related to efficiency or to the fact that a company might save cost, or there has to be some business benefits of the technology, because and even this stage we are really talking about the lowest level of the infrastructure components. But at the end, it's like on the internet we were debating about how the TCP/IP protocol is the best protocol, but actually nobody cares now. People care about how Facebook might connect people, or how Google might make the search component better. So at some point, I think now, of course, on our side, we are taking care about developing the infrastructure component. So that's what we are working on every day. But now we're going to have also to go step ahead of that. And there are different layers, and we have also to educate business stakeholders about how they will be able to implement blockchain to their company, and then they will come to us to use the infrastructure components. But at the end, we will need application builders that translate a technological component into a business benefits.
So clearly there are some hurdles, but what are your sort of expectations for the ecosystem generally, say in the next 5 to 10 years? How much do you see it growing, given that there are those headwinds to contend with, but also that clear growth opportunity as well?
Yeah, I mean, there are very smart people in the ecosystem, which is a very good sign to make sure that we are able to build the best tech, right? That's one of the main objectives that we have. And then we have to go outside. Outside meaning to non-blockchain world, because the blockchain world, as Kurt said, is very small. We think we have one of the best, if not the best technology. But of course, if you go to other chain, they will say the same. But in terms of cost, speed, and security, we are one of the best. That's clear. Now we need to bring people from outside. We need to bring decision makers, the people that are responsible about verticals, industry, like supply chain, and so on. And we need to educate and to attract them, and for them to understand how to leverage the blockchain technology, and then to build a very strong developer ecosystem with the best developer tools and the best infrastructure components, allowing them to develop the best applications.
Okay, Peter, it'd be great to hear a bit more about mintBlue. Obviously, you're the CIO there. Tell us a bit about how it's helping businesses to really maximize the potential of blockchain.
Well, on a technical level, that's what we do. We abstract away the complexities of the blockchain about UTXOs and keys, and businesses don't want to hear about that. They want to exchange a financial document. They want to tokenize an asset. And that's what we offer. So we have an API and an SDK, which has simple functions that any developer can use, which makes sense and are not too technical in nature. And so that's what we do. We look really at the interface level and make it the developer as easy as possible to use it in a business context.
And tell us a bit about your focus for mintBlue, say, in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, there's a lot of features we want to build out for our current customers. But apart from that, we're looking at building state machines. And what we want to do with that is, basically you have little Bitcoin transactions that describe a change in a state. And if you then have many, you can compare it basically with updating a database. You update a row, that's what happens. And so if you have many of these transactions, they in total describe a new state. And so multiple businesses can then run their own state machine, replay all of these transactions and come to the same state. And in that way, businesses can operate on the same data. And that's what we really want to build out. I think there's a lot of use cases for that. It's going to take some work to get it done. But yeah, that's what we're focusing on.
And if you were just to kind of try and really simply explain to the audience how you managed to simplify getting those transactions on-chain and retrieving information, could you give us a sort of very simple understanding of how that works for you guys?
Yeah, for our customers, it's just an API call. If you've done it, you can rest assured it's going to end up on chain. Now, how we do that is we use all the methods. There's miner API, there's the P2P network, there's many of these methods that make you have transactions on chain. We use all of them, and so if one system breaks, the others take over. And the same thing with reading from the blockchain. There's multiple methods to do that. We listen to all of those methods, and then we deduplicate them. That's how it's called, so that you get one event back from the network, even if some systems break.
And Kurt, moving on to you, talk to us a bit about Gorillapool. Obviously, we've heard your presentation earlier, but just give us a bit of an overview of what you guys are up to at the moment.
So we're, in a very basic sense, we're a Bitcoin miner. So we run node infrastructure, we run pool infrastructure, we collect hash power from anybody who wants to hash with us. We run our own fleet, and we run a fleet for anybody that wants to mine with us. So if you wanted to use it as a little investment, side investment, or if you wanted to give us $100 million and have us manage a fleet for you, we do all of that kind of thing. So that's your ASIC hashing, building blocks, validating transactions, and then serving data back out to clientele. So that's the basic business model. But that's not what I want us to be thought of even now, but especially 3 to 5 years from now. I see us moving toward the data economy where data is money. I even hear people lately say memes are money, and I agree. So you see big ideas that catch on and they have value that you can't easily monetize without Bitcoin. And the problem is this admin problem, this infrastructure problem. You shouldn't have to be a sysadmin of your own system, or to build your own business, or to like put a JPEG on chain, or sell a piece of art or something. And so for Gorillapool, what I see us transitioning to is I want to be thought much less like a Bitcoin mining company and much more like an ISP. So I want to be thought of the way that you might think of AT&T or Comcast, or in Britain it's Vodafone and some of these other infrastructure. Like, hey, I need to make a phone call, or I need to send an email. My first thing is, how do I access the internet? And Gorillapool will be one of those options. It will be a gateway to all of that valuable data where you want to be doing business. And we have done that through a pretty unique stack. I've not seen anybody else do it the way we've done it. Certainly not on other blockchains, but even in the BSV space, which is itself very data-minded, we've created a series of tools that allow people to filter for data, subscribe to specific data, and download it in a way that is then usable in their own stack. And similar to what mintBlue is doing, trying to simplify this for their customers, we're trying to simplify it for companies like mintBlue, because I want his business. so ultimately, I try to build it in such a way that someone at his level says, oh, this is simple, this is juicy, this is inexpensive, or it's the value of it is such that I can mark it up, make more value there. And so that's our basic business model and our broader business model. But truly, we're an honest node on the network. We're providing proof of work. We're building blocks and having a good time.
Good to know you're having a good time. Yes. But as a miner, you've been deploying Bitcoin Arc as a transaction on Onramp. So what are your thoughts so far on that?
Arc is still a beta product, so it's not perfect, and no software ever is. You can run run Windows, which has been around for 30 years at this point, and say, ugh, why does it work this way? but you have to use it, right? So Arc is a really interesting problem because it solves the problem of receiving and ingesting transactions, which in a small network that doesn't have a lot of traffic, you can just broadcast it to the peer-to-peer network, and that's fine. But when you get to higher volumes or you get more complex transaction types, there's more that it needs to be looking for. It's essentially just an API. I like to call it a funnel. So if I needed to throw a transaction across the room, I'd want a big funnel that it can catch rather than trying to hit a small target. Yep. And Arc sort of works that way. And if it doesn't receive it, my favorite part of Arc, which solves a problem that existed a year or two or three ago with a product called Mappy, is that if it would fail in some way, it just would kind of alert you, or sometimes wouldn't alert you that it broke. And then you'd have to kind of reboot and look for the problem. Yeah. But what Arc does is imagine if that funnel on the other side of the room had a tumbler that would keep retrying to throw the if I miss, it falls back into a hopper that tries again. And so that's a very useful tool. And I'm really glad that it exists. And we're using it in-house. We have clients that are using it to send transactions to us, and we're happy with it.
And then from a miner perspective, where do you see the focus on reading and writing going forward, do you think?
I mean, it's a both and. Both are our customers. There are going to be people that want to make simple payments. I don't need to know that as a wallet user, but the wallet company should subscribe to something like Arc. They send transactions to that endpoint. And that's one set of customers. Then the reading part are the people that are trying to sell data from the blockchain, and they need a reliable place to read it from. So it's two groups of customers in most ways, a little bit of crossover for sure, but ultimately it's a both-and business. This is the business model, is let's take an idea, put it on chain with a transaction, and then take it back off chain with a read tool.
Brilliant. Okay, and Thomas, on to you. You've built a platform for applications to work with. So I'm wondering how this helps to simplify life for application builders.
So it was in my previous experience at Tal.
Yes.
He's also a miner on BSV, so the same that Gorillapool. So Tal developed a platform layers on top of the infrastructure layer, allowing to write and read on chain. So Tal has different kind of products and services. The first one is called Tal API, just an API to send and broadcast that transaction to the chain. Actually, it will use Beacon Arc as well. The second one, and I think this is interesting because we are focused on, BSV is focused on enterprise adoption, and the way the blockchain currently works is that the application builders use exchanges to get some coins to run their application. And or as we might or might not know, there are a lot of compliance and regulations problem with exchanges who are not regulated. So that's why you hear a lot of bad things about exchanges currently. So Tal tried to solve this issue. I mentioned it before with Tal Client, which is a tool allowing you to just send raw data on chain without having to go to an exchange and to buy some BSV, which is actually, it can protect BSV from the overall speculation topic linked to the exchange, which I think exchange might play a very good role in terms of they can bring some liquidity. So that's always good to bring some liquidity, but we also have to take care about the enterprise adoption, and Tal Client is here for that. Tal also had an overall token platform solutions allowing you to tokenize any kind of data assets or to create any kind of token like utility payment and asset-backed token. And finally, Tal also owns What's on Chain, which is a blockchain explorer. So today it's really the leading one, and the team is here to release every week and to make sure that we focus first on users.
Great. So talking about What's on Chain, the Prime Blockchain Explorer, can you tell us a bit more about how it supports developers in getting information both on and from the blockchain?
Yeah. So Watson is currently the leading blockchain explorer. We are talking about more than 80 million API calls a month, something like 4 or 5 terabytes of data transferred to Watson. So the way Watson works is that even if it's owned by Tal, Watson has an independent infrastructure directly connected to the network, allowing application builders to independently verify the status of their transactions. You have, I don't know, for the one who doesn't know Watson, you have 2 components, the website and the API. The real, not the real product, but for application builders that might use better the API side with a lot of endpoints. But actually, you can find almost the same features on the API and the website. The primarily use is really to verify your transaction. So if you send a transaction on chain, then you go to Watson Chain, you are sure that Watson Chain has an independent infrastructure, and then you can make sure that, okay, my transaction is on chain. And that's also the purpose of the blockchain, is to provide transparency and independent transparency without relying on an independent company. Of course, you're going to rely on Watson Chain, but at least you are sure that Watson Chain runs on an independent infrastructure. And then the team is really in a really cool startup mindset. They are really focused on users. They release every week. So I invite you to go to the Watson Chain Telegram channel if you have any additional feature that you might need as an application builder.
Brilliant. We've actually sadly run out of time already, but that was a super interesting discussion. I learned a lot there about simplifying writing and reading transactions on the chain. So let's give a big round of applause to our amazing panelists. Thank you so much, guys. This is Kurt, Peter, and Thomas. Thank you for joining us.